All right. Hey, Stephen, thank you so much for agreeing to be a guest today. I am excited to learn more about your financial journey.
Hey, appreciate you having me.
So, I'm going to start by asking you the first question that I ask everyone, which is what is your earliest memory of money?
My earliest memory of money has to take me back to New York. I was born in New York, and both of my parents are from Jamaica. And I remember going to a toy store with my aunt and her getting me like the biggest bear that I'd ever seen before. It was almost bigger than me. And at the time, I was like, "Oh wow, I can't believe that we can get this toy," because we weren't buying a whole bunch of things when it came to going out or even going out to eat. And so I think that seeing that we got that bear or that she bought that bear for me, I was like, oh snap, like my auntie must be rich. I'm trying to get rich like my aunt. And as I got older, I realized that you could just buy toys, no matter how much money you had. And some people decided to spoil, their nephews or nieces just like others. And I think I'm that uncle now.
Okay. Did you grow up? Was she the rich auntie?
Was she the rich auntie? So not in like today's standards. I think she was rich in tradition. She was rich in like giving us time when it came to, spending time with us. And I feel like when I was younger, I was very, very often on her hip. And but she was making ends meet just like anybody else and working hard to make sure she had the things that she wanted and that she wanted to provide her family. And so and then it was also, now that I think about it, it was also before she had kids. And so she probably was rich auntie in that sense, where she didn't have to worry about like other kids in her household, that she could like spend more money on her nieces and nephews.
Okay. So she could at some point, but did she change like the way she was giving when she had kids? Did you notice a change in that?
Well, I noticed that once we moved from New York down to South Carolina, that a lot of things changed in terms of like how much engagement you had with your family members. And this is before like cell phones. You still had the house phone that you had to pull through the kitchen if you was going to talk to somebody. And I also knew that my family was coming from humble beginnings. Everyone was trying to get here and get something so they could send it back home or like build something for themselves and their families. And so um, I I definitely realized that change, but I had no idea like how much money she did or didn't make.
Okay. So you mentioned like your family is was coming over here. Like, are you first generation American? Did you witness any, well, you moving from New York to South Carolina, was that like for your family to gain more financial stability, or what was kind of like the reason for that move?
Yeah, we moved from New York to South Carolina, more so because South Carolina was a nice place to raise kids, or at least that's what my mom's friend told her.
Okay.
We were living in the city at the time, and there's a lot going on in the city in the late '80s, early '90s, and so when her friend moved down to South Carolina, and she was able to see all the land and like a house that could house all of us. Um, I think she got excited, and we headed down this way. But yeah, I'm a first generation Jamaican American. I'm a dual citizen, and my dad's from Kingston 8. My mom's from Trelawney.
Okay. I know nothing about Jamaican. Like I have been surrounded by Jamaicans my entire life. Most of my friends are Jamaican, my mentor. Um, but yeah, I don't know too much about the island or anything.
Have you been?
I have not been to Jamaica.
Oh, you gotta treat yourself.
I
You
do have to
gotta,
treat myself.
yeah,
I
because right
do.
now you're cheating yourself.
Cheating
So
myself.
yeah,
Okay, okay,
you
okay.
gotta get to Jamaica. You gotta get to Jamaica.
Yeah, that's so funny. Every time I think about it, I have more Jamaican friends than I do Haitian friends. So
How about that?
that is crazy to me. All my life I've been around you
Mm,
people.
yeah, how about that? we, we welcome it.
So did you, as a child, witness or experience any financial challenges? Maybe not experience, but witness it within your family, any setbacks? And do you feel like they affected your perspective about money or cause you any trauma in any way?
Yeah, I can definitely acknowledge that there's been some trauma, like with a small T, going down the road when it comes to money, specifically around that move to South Carolina. And so, my dad, he was an electrician, and in New York, he was making really good money. But when he moved to South Carolina, his pay got sliced by like 70%. And, any income loss, no matter what the cost of living difference is, any income loss like that is going to change some things. And so I still remember living in a 3-bedroom house. Sometimes it was 8 of us, sometimes 10 of us, depending on who was here from Jamaica living in the house. And, we did experience some hardships every now and then where the water would be disconnected, or, the lights would be off, or um, just different things that were challenges. But I think a large part of it was because the income difference was so crazy from New York to South Carolina. And, you know, just like any other Jamaican family, like, we're focused on the family. So if we can provide for everybody in the household, then that's what we're gonna focus on. And so my dad, like, he was a great electrician. He traveled, he was a journeyman, but the pay just wasn't he wasn't hitting. And then as my mom started to work, we were talking about the other day actually, like her getting a pay raise from like $5.83 to like $6.13, and like 30-cent pay raise. And her and my dad like having to figure out how to feed all these kids because I'm one of five, on the amount of money they were making in South Carolina. And so, uh, having those experiences, we didn't have McDonald's money all the time, unless it was like the Tuesday 29-cent hamburgers or 39-cent cheeseburger joints. And I know that as I got older, like that led me to eating a lot of my money, because now I can decide like, oh, I'm going to spend money on food. And then it also gave me um, some money avoidant like traits, because as we did experience some of these challenges, we generally didn't talk about money unless it was talking about like, hey, I don't have money to do that specific thing. Even like I remember my siblings, there were some times that we would decide who was going to go on the field trip that year because we didn't have enough money to send all the kids to wherever we were going. And so as I got to college, I made every money misstep possible. Like I had 7 maxed out credit cards, overdraft fees to the point they closed all of my bank accounts, repossessions, plural. I got evicted from my apartment. My credit score was at 385 at one point. And yeah, I know I see your eyebrows for real. But I think experiencing what we experienced at a young age, because we didn't really talk about money. And I don't blame my parents for this because they taught us what they could. Um, when I got to college, I just didn't really know how best to manage money when things got challenging. And
Mhm.
so um yeah, I can think about like what path that set me on, and really like how I spun out of it from that point.
So the experiences that you had when you like with having to navigate like your family's finances, do you feel like it made you want to work any sooner? Like what was your first job?
Yeah, so my first job was at Outback Steakhouse. I can still remember like the same day that I got my first job is the same day I got my license. And I was excited because I could contribute not only to my household, but I could also buy some things that I wanted. And I was excited to work. That Jamaican spirit is in me. And so I think when I started working at Outback, I was a bus boy making $2.13 plus tips. And then, like a little bit later, I started working in the back of the house to the point where I was working like 32 hours a week just so I can, what I'm saying, get the money that I wanted while I was in high school. And so I was leaving school, sometimes leaving football practice or track practice, and then going to work. And those times like it's still wild to me how much money I made. It's just ridiculous. $2.13 is a very, very ignorantly low amount of money. But I was excited to just go out and start making some money. And that was my first like job. But even in middle school, like I was one of the people who had like a candy business, right? I had two book bags on me at all times. I had my book bag with my books and then my book bag with my candy. And I had a price list on there. I had two friends that worked for me. And like we was really building big business. Like we was making some good money. And so I can think about like my first job, but also like my first entrepreneurial endeavor.
That's so funny. So you started making money and like were just inspired to make more money. Is that how you started your business?
Yeah, well, at first I think when I was in middle school, I knew that people were looking for things that weren't in the vending machine. And I think that there was a day that I had like these Jolly Rancher lollipops that used to go crazy. And somebody was like, I'll give you 50 cents for this. I was like, for real? It's like, yeah, like right now. I was like, oh, okay. And so like later on, I was like, oh, well, maybe other people will buy these lollipops. And at first, like I made the mistake of saying like selling things like for change. So like 50 cents, 25 cents. That wasn't the way to do it because that means I had to carry change. And so then I started selling like two for $1 or three for $1 when it came to some of these pieces of candy. And it did make me like once I started making some money, I was like, oh, I can really do this. Like I remember like paying my mom gas money to go and re-up my candy
Okay.
and like get my inventory back up. And the administrators told us we had to stop because we were taking money from the vending machines, and the
Oh
vending
man.
machines were the things that paid for our like middle school parties, like the dances and stuff like that. And so he told me, he's like, yo, unless you're gonna start putting the money towards these parties, you gotta chill or you're gonna get suspended. And I was like, I don't even know who's selling them, bro.
That's crazy. That's hating.
Super hating.
You only sold Jolly Ranchers though.
Well, now I had some other candy that I
You had
sold,
other
but
candy. Okay.
I think that it was two things. One, he used to see the rappers all over the place, like outside when we was going to recess and stuff like that, and he hated that. He's like, "Look at all
Mm,
this trash! Like, where did all this candy come from?"
yeah.
And then the other thing is that like they realized how much money they were losing.
Yeah. Okay. So what were you like as a money manager? How were you managing all this money that you were making?
Shoot, when I think back, as a kid, I was great, but when I got to college, like peer pressure real. And so, you want to go out every weekend or you got different things that pop up. And I had like the worst luck with cars in college. And so I remember having a car that I was paying a car payment on. And for 2 years I paid the payment, but it was only operable for like a year. And so when you kicking out money every month to a car that don't even work and you trying to get it repaired and you trying to pay people gas money to take you different places, it's a wild situation. And so I think that me, like a lot of other people, like you don't come out the gate trying to mess up with money. You're trying to get it right. But as circumstances pop up on you, if you don't have some resources in order, then sometimes things kind of get off the rails, even if you do have good intentions.
Hmm. And you mentioned peer pressure. Like, what kinds of people were around you? Like, how do you think your environment kind of shaped your financial situation or contributed to it?
Yeah, I think for the better a lot of times, but also because it's not like they were making me spend the money. They're making sure like, yo, we trying to have a good time, and they were doing the same things that I was. They probably weren't in the same financial position that I was, or if they were, they weren't as open about it right now. Because I do share my money story with other people to let them know, like, hey, y'all see these businesses and things like that now, but this is just not how it was before. But also I pledged, and so I'm a Q, and being around the bros, these are some super enterprising people. Like I still remember my DP. he's one of my best friends now. And I still remember him throwing parties like 45 minutes away from campus. And he was making money, and he was, had his own production company, and he started managing like a group of artists. And you saw the people around me, like they may not have had a lot of money, or they just didn't come from a lot of money, but they was going to get it. And I think being around those type of people, even when you're making the missteps with money, it gives you the opportunity to see somebody just keep trying and trying and trying to figure it out. And so, I kept doing the same thing.
Okay. So you had both positive and maybe negative influences and
I
friends
wouldn't even,
around you?
I wouldn't even say negative. I would say like positive and like young influences. You know what I'm saying? Because you in college, you trying to kick it. You
Yeah.
like that's just what it is. And so,
Yeah.
I think the influences were positive, and some of the money situations were challenging. But
Hmm.
you know, we either win or we learn. So I'm okay with like how it all turned out. It just didn't feel the greatest in the situation
It never does.
for sure.
What is your worst financial mistake and what did you learn from the experience?
So my worst financial mistake, it was November 17th, 2011.
Okay.
And I remember it distinctly because it was centennial. It was like when the fraternity turned 100. And I had went out, I was drinking. Um, I got pulled over for a DUI and like charged with a DUI. And it wasn't even that I was drunk, but I had been up for like 24 hours because I went out right after work. And I'd get up at 6 in the morning. We out until 4 in the morning. And so I was falling asleep on the road, and the cop pulled me over. And I didn't get uh I didn't get charged with a DUI. Like that's what I got arrested for. But going to court and like paying all the fees, and it ended up being reduced because I had never been arrested before. It ended up being reduced to like a moving violation. But I ended up losing my job. So I had a full-time gig where I had like my own truck. They had a gas card. Like I was in sales, and so I was moving around. And because I had the DUI, my license got suspended. And they were like, "Oh, what's up? What's up with the suspended license?" And after that, like I ended up getting fired. And so, like I remember it, I lost at least 10 G's in fees and just different things I had to pay and time that I lost. And then even getting fired from the job, um, it was in a time where I was really ramping up. Like, my book of business was starting to cook. And so, I know that was like one of my biggest financial mistakes for sure.
What did you learn from that experience? So it just seemed like one bad decision snowballed into other things that were affected.
Yeah, for sure. So, this is 2011. So like Lyft and Uber wasn't really popping like that back then. And so, but I did make a decision like, oh, I'm not going to drink and drive. And then the other thing is that, like, the biggest thing that I learned from them is that, or the biggest thing that I learned from that experience is don't let things mess with your money. Like me drinking and having a good time it's not a problem, right? But me drinking and driving and doing all the things that I know I shouldn't be doing is wilding. Like I could have just, called a friend or slept it off, or like there's mad decisions or options now, what I'm saying, behind hindsight's 2020. And so when I think back on it, it's like I don't put myself in the position to um, make bad decisions like I did before. And I know that I felt like I made the best decision with the choices that I had. But now I'm more keen on the choices that are on the table. You know, I'm more, I have more clarity, and I don't even drink no more. You know what I'm saying? Because I also realized after I got arrested for the DUI, it was like, I don't even like alcohol, y'all. Like, why am I even, I'm drinking because everybody else is drinking, and, going out and having a good time. And it was cool. It was cool. But as I got older, like I did ask myself, like, yo, do you even like to drink? And I don't. I just don't care about alcohol like that. I don't like the way it make me feel. and I wasn't a social drinker. So I was like consistently drinking and going to the limit or past the limit. And so, I think about those decisions like a young Steven was making, and like how it kind of laid the groundwork for me to do the things that I'm doing now, or at least have the clarity of making decisions now.
Hmm. An expensive lesson
Super,
to
super
learn.
expensive. Absolutely.
Do you feel like you feel any, or have you felt any like feelings of shame or guilt because of the decisions you've made in the past?
Yeah, early on I did, like especially in the moment, right? Because you can't see the picture while you're in the frame. Like you can't really tell how good it is or how bad it is or how challenging it is, because that's not something that people were talking about, like getting a DUI and the financial situation they were in after that, or even like losing the job. Like that's just not something my circle was talking about. And so at the time I was very shameful about it. I wouldn't even tell my friends at the time, like, oh, I got fired. It was like, yo, um, I'm just gonna make sure that I have a good time this weekend, because the week before I got fired, my car got repossessed. And then the next week I got fired. And then the day after I got fired was my birthday. And so
Ooh.
I had already planned on like having this big party and celebrating. And so uh, yeah, I just ended up doing it anyway. Like, okay, well, there's nothing I can do at this point. But I was too shameful to tell people, like, or I felt so much shame around it that I didn't want to tell people that, hey, I lost my job because of this that happened. Or even my parents, because I had also a few years before, or a year before that happened, I dropped out of school. And so and Jamaican parents, like, come on now. They this What is this kid doing? That's what I know, that's what my parents was thinking. Like, come on now. They didn't come to this country for all these things to happen. And so yeah, I definitely felt shame like around it, because I also knew that that was part of the story. Like, oh, my mom and my dad, who didn't go to this 4-year school, or pushing to get this business degree or anything else like that, like they wanted to lay the foundation for these opportunities for me, and I'm missing them. You know what I mean? And so but I look back at those experiences, and think about like how much they set me up, for the things that I'm doing now, because um even the shame and guilt that I felt around money, like I specifically help my clients with that, because I know how they felt. I know how they feel. I know how they found, or what I found. And a lot of people don't talk about the shame, the guilt, the fear that people feel around money. A lot of financial professionals, they like to stick to the basics, or they really focus on a niche, which might be investing, or something else, right? But now more than ever, like more people need to unpack the thoughts and emotions around money, because it's not that it doesn't really matter how much you make if you have these feelings around money, that you're shamed, or you feel guilt, even if you feel like even if you feel survivor's remorse, like, oh, I made it out, like, oh, I'm the one who made it. That's not a always a positive feeling either. It could be a two-edged sword, where you feel like you made it out, but then you also may feel like you got to put the family on your back, the neighborhood on your back, the community on your back, because you got more money than your parents had ever seen. And if those feelings go unchecked, then they can snowball into just poor financial decisions going down the road.
Yeah, for sure. And I told you I'm learning more about that. You're already light years ahead of me with that kind of stuff. But I agree. When it comes to your experiences with money, it's definitely more than just the numbers. It's emotional, psychological. And I was talking to someone the other day about that, who feels like when she started touching a certain level of money, like she still experienced guilt. It was just a different kind of guilt. So no matter what level you're at, like you're gonna experience or feel something, if and you do have to take care of it.
You do. I mean, if you don't address those feelings and thoughts that you have around money, like you mentioned, even if I know I want to make more money and then I end up making more money, for a lot of my clients that I've worked with, they realize that they're back to the same place that they were at before financially, even though they're making two, three, five times more than they were making before. And when you take a look back at it, it it may not be the best feeling, because money is such an intimate thing and it touches every area of our life. And financial stress, it seeps into every area of our life. And so if you don't, take a step back and can at least put your arms around it, um, it can get it can get off the rails real quick.
Real quick, how would you say someone should navigate, or how do you navigate difficult financial situations?
Yeah, so for unexpected, so the way that I navigate difficult financial situations, if it's like an unexpected expense that pops up on me or a family member that needs money, um, one, I have a family fund because I got to the point where one, I didn't want to feel bad about telling a family member no. And then two, if they did borrow the money, I didn't want to feel like I had to keep hounding them to pay it back. And so at the beginning of each year, I put money into an account where if a family member asks me, hey, can I borrow some money? I just take it out of that account if I have it. And if they pay it back, excellent. It goes back into that account. But if they don't, then another family member that asks me for money, they'll only be able to access this amount of money because I'm not replenishing it until the top of the year. And so it gives me the opportunity to not be the asshole or the bad guy to say, like, oh, no, nah, I'm not letting you hold no money. Or in even some cases, like some people, especially in the personal finance world, they'll put like fences around the money. Like, I'm gonna let you get this money, but I want to sit down with you and do a budget. Dog, I'm not doing all that because I know that you are in crisis, which is the reason why you asked me for money anyway. So I'm not gonna put this thing on your plate. I'll let you know what I got going on. I can help you, as you get out of your situation. But that's the last thing somebody who needs money right now wants to do. They want to sit down with you and like bust down a budget. Come on now. And so, in the family realm, that's how I handle that. But unexpected things for myself or financial challenges for myself, usually I give myself like 24 hours to like cry, cuss, and carry on if I need to. And then after 24 hours, like it also gives me some time to think about the choices that I have so I can make like some real decisions. And even if I don't know the answer right then, I start forming the questions of like, oh, if if I wanted to solve this, and this is for challenges or opportunities, like if there's a big investment deal that comes across my desk, I'm like, dang, I want to invest in this, but my liquid money is tied up right now. How would I do it? Like, how would I get the money? If it's like a huge expense for a family member, because now I'm financially stable. Like if anything pops up on me, I got money to take care of it. But if, for family members in a bind and I do want to like help them, whether the money's in the family fund or not, like I can take a step back to say like, okay, well, how can I help them without hindering myself in this financial situation or position? And it wasn't always like that. Like I oftentimes, if I had a shirt on my back and they needed one, I'd take it off. But now I'm cold and they may lose the shirt because they lost the first one. And so now I just want to make sure we all clothed. I want to make sure we all got what we need, at least, and we can kind of build from there.
Do you tell your other family member, let's say someone comes and asks for money, but there isn't enough? Do you tell them like someone else borrowed this much and I don't, there's no more left because of that person?
So I don't be saying no names. I just let them know, like, hey, this is the family fund. Someone borrowed money. They hadn't paid it back yet. The only amount that I have in here is this. I wish I could help more, but if they pay it back, soon, then I'll reach out to you. But I think it would be like hella messy of me to be like, oh, uh, Donovan didn't pay it back, and so now they gonna reach out a dime and like, dang, I need the money and you ain't pay it back. So that'd be kind of wild. So I don't do that. But I do let them know like this is all that I have access to right now for this. Unless it's like an emergency situation, like a some type of medical thing or something like that, where I'll go and find the money because um, now I'm better at like generating income, and even solving problems when it comes to money than I was when I was younger because I just didn't have the financial or mental resources to even ask the questions of how this could be solved without me going in debt, or how could it be solved without the other person like feeling bad or sad or fear or shame or guilt around even asking me for the money. And I'm conscious of all those things now because I felt like that before.
Mm, yeah. Um, how have you grown in other areas of your life as a result of the way you've grown with your money?
So other areas of my life that have been impacted since like I got on track with my money. Then the first thing that I can think about is like my physical health, um, and my spiritual health. Because once I decided that I was down with doing things different than like the people around me were doing them, or at least the way that they were talking about doing them, because money and sex are still very taboo topics. And so it's not like we were super open about how much we made and what we were investing in and how we saved money and how we stayed, saying debt free on the credit cards and things like that. And so when I really turned my financial life around 180 and started sharing my story, it really gave me the opportunity to not only share with more people, but more people started asking me to share my story. And so it changed my life on the income side because now I'm a paid speaker. A lot of companies and organizations ask me to come in to lead financial wellness workshops or provide financial wellness resources for them and their employees. But also like I mentioned earlier, my physical health, because I was when I was making those financial mistakes and I was, saying drinking and doing all them other things, like I was large and in charge. And so to now, like from then till now, like I've gotten rid of about 100 pounds and I've kept it off for the most part. Uh, you know, the holiday was recently, so I know I packed on some pounds. But just even when finances touch every area of your life, and so in some cases, like people will be money avoidant, and so they won't want to talk about money, but they may not want to talk about other things because of the way they feel. Some people may like have a belief of money worship. Like if I just had more money, everything would be better, right? And so the other areas of their lives may not. I mean, they may be suffering in those situations. Some people they may have a money belief of like money status where they want they equate their self-worth to their financial net worth. And so if they don't have their money straight, then they're just gonna feel bad all the way around. And there are different money beliefs that we all like in some way are connected to, in some money beliefs than others. And so I think like once I got my finances together, it gave me the opportunity to think about other things because I wasn't just thinking about like, damn, how am I gonna make it to next week? Or I'm living paycheck to paycheck. How am I going to, pay this bill that just came in that I wasn't expecting? Like the thing that used to trip me up all the times was like taxes. Like the car taxes would come through in the middle of the year, even though I know I got to pay them every year. I wasn't thinking about them because I was living paycheck to paycheck. And so every year they would come in and be like, damn, how am I gonna pay a $300-$400 bill that just popped up on me? It did not pop up on me. It actually did not. I knew that it was, I mean, every year it was coming around the same time. But when you're living paycheck to paycheck, or you're just trying to make sure that you pay for the roof over your head and make it to the next 2 weeks or the next month, um, it hits other areas of your life. And so I can just think about how much freedom I had to just think about other things, to focus on other things once I had my money straight.
Yeah. So you mentioned it helped with your physical health and your mental health. Once you can think about other things like that, clears your mind and you live more peacefully. what would you say is like that turning point that you experienced where you realized you had to get your finance together? And how did you get into personal finance?
Yeah, I mean, a large part of it was that DUI situation. Like once that happened, that night, I had a customer that owned a towing company, and I called them so that they wouldn't impound my car. And they were super cool with me, and they were like, "Hey, just shoot me $75. I'll just take your car back to my shop, and you just come pick it up whenever you get out." And I was like, "Okay, cool," but I didn't have $75, and it was after I'd like been big kicking it, drinking, partying, everything else like that, and I was like, "Damn, this $75 could save me $250, but I don't even have it to give this person." And they cut me a deal. And so when you're in a position where you're so broke you can't take advantage of a deal that you know is a deal for real, like that, so that hit me. That hit me in such a way that I was like, damn, I don't ever want to be in this position again. And from there, like other financial challenges popped up through the years, but I had started kind of getting myself back on track. Even though I didn't know a whole lot about money, I started like reading books because I'm somebody who like I love music, I love stories. My top five MCs, they're storytellers. And when I read this book called The Richest Man in Babylon, and I read a book called I Will Teach You to Be Rich, they're both like filled with stories. And I just started taking a couple of different things from each book, and I was like, okay, I could do this. Oh, I could do this. And as I made the changes and turned my life around 180, I did start telling people like, hey, this is how I messed my money up. This is how I fixed it. So if you did the same thing, this is probably how you can fix it. And the more people that I started telling about how I was fucking my money up and getting it back right, the more people who were like, oh, well, so what else you got going on? Or what do you have going on now? And then I started volunteering for this nonprofit called Junior Achievement that does a lot of like financial education in grade school. And the executive director at the time, I told her, I was like, yo, I love doing this, but I made my financial mistakes in college. So like, when do y'all do this for college students? And she was like, oh, that's not really our market. And I was like, oh, well, I mean, who's talking to them? She's like, I mean, you probably should. And so I started my nonprofit called No Money, spelled KNOW, so I could really like go back and talk to so I could be the Steven that I needed when I was in school. And from there, like I just started, doing more events, planning education around money, and just talking about money in a way that I wanted to talk about money that I hadn't seen other people like. Because I mean, personal finance, it's been like the same way for the past 50 years. Like old white staunchy buttoned up, like you got to do it like this type situation. And so a lot of people who like are building a big community now, it's because they're reaching people who have been needing like our voices for a while. And I saw like a lot of colleges start leaning in that way because the students were like, oh, that's how that works. Or, oh, I got a question about this. And I was talking about everything because I mean, the same way I told you about the DUI is the same way I was talking to the students. And so I think that's really what pushed me into personal finance, just my financial mistakes and me trying to help students like not make those same mistakes. And from there, it's grown so much, so crazy. Like I didn't know I was going to become a financial therapist. I didn't know I was going to be talking to like Google and Airbnb and Tiffany and Company. Like I didn't know I was going to be in Forbes and New York Times. I had no idea. But I think I just kept talking to the right people that I wanted to reach. And then more people heard my voice and was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Or I want to talk to him too. Or yeah, I can do that. Especially like little things, like little hinges swing big doors, like things like the family fund that I talked about, or uh just other things that we can do in our financial life that will impact us in a large way. I realized that those are things that weren't going under the radar because a lot of people want to talk about budget and debt. And I was like, bruh, I don't even budget. This ain't really my conversation. So, um, yeah, that's how I got into personal finance.
I will, in another conversation, probably talk to you about how you live without budgeting, but I agree. It's definitely much more than that. If you could go back and give your younger self some advice, just about money and your emotions, what would it be?
If I could give my younger self advice about money and emotions, two things that I would say. One is action cures all. If you think about the things you want to do at this age, just go and do them. Like you're young, it'll work out either as a lesson or either as like a way that you can earn. And like around emotions, the big thing that I would tell myself is that uh, your parents and your family members are doing the best they can with what they have. Because when I was younger, I was like, dang, and I started learning about money for real. I was like, dang, I can't believe my parents ain't teach me about this. Like they never taught me about this. They didn't teach me about this or that. But when I started having conversations with them about the things that I was learning, they was like, oh, like some of the things that I was bringing to them, they're like, hmm. So they were learning with me. You know, they were learning about some of these investments with me. They were learning about like different ways to build a business with me. And so, I know that I look to them for many things, just like we do for our parents, like for guidance on many different things. Um, but someone can only teach you what they know. And now I give them all the grace in the world because I mean, shit, they got me here. You know what I'm saying? And so I think I can handle the rest. But at the time, I couldn't see that.
Okay. You definitely have to give your parents grace. The older you get, the more you realize like they were going through it as well. Like it was their first time at life, so they didn't know.
For sure.
Is that the same advice that you would give listeners? Like what would you give someone who's experiencing their journey now? Like how would you help someone navigate their financial journey at this moment?
Yeah, the advice that I would give anybody who's listening to this, who's navigating their financial journey, um, is partly that, action cures all. And sometimes that action is just research. Sometimes that action is asking a question to somebody who is close to you. Sometimes that action is grabbing a book or listening to a podcast like this or just getting some information that you just didn't have before on your specific situation. And in addition to that, I think that it's really hard to like get up out of your situation while you're in it. Like it's hard to tell a story that hasn't been the end hasn't been written yet. And so for a lot of people, they may be going through a financial challenge, but they don't have anybody they talk to about money. And so I would say that if they could find a money tag team partner, like find an accountability partner, whether it's a friend, a family member, internet stranger that you connected with online, to somebody you can talk to about what you got going on, and they'll talk to you about what they got going on, so that y'all can see objectively, like, hey, this may be something that you missed, or I experienced this before. Let me tell you how I fixed it. Because the more open conversations we have about money, the easier it'll be to galvanize the community to say, like, oh, I've experienced this. I'm gonna tell you how I fixed it, and then we can work together on this, and then we can work together on building money because that's really what happened to me. Like when I started getting my finances right, then I was able to help other people get it right, and I was also able to help these people invest with me, and I was able to invest with them. I was able to build business with them, and that's a powerful thing. In that situation, 1+1 = 11. And so if you don't have somebody that you talk to about money, that you can tell like your deepest, darkest secrets about money, Like no matter how you feel about it, like even if it's not a financial therapist, if it's a friend who you can trust, a family member you can trust that y'all know like y'all locked in, that's gonna take you further than a lot of advice and books and blogs and everything else that other people be talking about.
So get connected.
Get connected, but stay connected.
Get connected, stay connected, do your own research. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I mean, do your own research for sure. Do your own research for sure. But the biggest thing is like find an accountability partner who you can like really talk to.
Yeah.
And that accountability partner might not be somebody you to pay.
Okay. What are your current financial aspirations?
My current financial aspirations include like buying a compound for my family, like a place that me and my friends and my family we can all like live in one city, like raise our kids in one street or one neighborhood, um, and do that with ease. You know, like right now I'm working towards being so financially independent that when my future wife and I have our future children, that if we wanted to work part-time at Chick-fil-A just to say what's up to other people, we could, but it's not for money. You know, it's like if we wanted to have a part-time job just to kick it, we could, but everything is paid for, everything is like taken care of. And yeah, I'm working towards that. I'm on my way. So yeah, I just got to keep moving.
That's awesome. And what a life that would be. How can people keep up with you? Any social media handles or what are you doing now? And how can people keep up with you?
Yeah, so people can keep up with me. They can hit my website. It's stephenmhughes.com. So STEVENM like money, HUGHES.com. And they can also find me, you know, across the web like Instagram and LinkedIn at Stephen M. Hughes. And right now I'm a financial therapist. I'm a Reiki master teacher, and I'm helping people unpack their emotions around money so they can live carefree responsibly and do the things they want to with money. And so I'll keep the party going.
All right. Thank you so much, Stephen. That was so great. Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome. Appreciate you having me.